Son's decision, which was announced at his company's 40th AGM, follows a similar move by Alibaba's Jack Ma, who left the board of SoftBank last month after 13 years.
Jack is stepping down, and along with that I myself also like to step down from the board of Alibaba Group. It's not that any arguments in between us and them or anything like that. It's just a happy ending, actually.
Well, Peter Elstrom has been tracking this story. So was it a bromance, the Masa-Jack relationship? What happened? A busted bromance or pragmatic governance moves?
Well, it's the end of an era for these two men. You know, both standout entrepreneurs within their countries. They started the relationship about 20 years ago when Masayoshi Son put about $20 million into Alibaba. And then Jack Ma built up the company and took it public, and now that stake is worth more than $150 billion. So it's been a hugely successful investment for Son, and it's benefited both companies. Alibaba has grown very quickly. SoftBank has benefited from having this very valuable asset on its books. In fact, when SoftBank ran into troubles earlier this year, it looked to sell off assets, including the Alibaba stake, which is there to be sold when they need some quick cash. So Son said at the annual meeting that it was an amicable split. He, of course, continues to run his company, but Jack Ma has been pulling back from Alibaba for a while and from his other business activities. He gave up the CEO role a few years ago. He gave up the chairman's seat last year, and he's been stepping off the board too. So it makes sense that he would be pulling off of the SoftBank board, and this is the time when Masa decided he also was going to step back from the Alibaba board.
I mean, you talk about the mutual benefit, that reciprocity, the $20 billion that went in, what it was worth, and there was a liquidity. What was the other major benefit of this relationship, do you think?
Well, I think both men benefited from having each other on their boards as they faced these kind of strategic decisions over the past 20 years. They've been able to turn to the other one to get input and advice on a variety of things. Jack Ma focused for a long time on building Alibaba within China, and then, of course, they had the historic IPO where they raised more money than anyone else has in an IPO. It was very, very successful. Masayoshi Son went on to create the Vision Fund and to make investments in other startups where he's been looking for entrepreneurs like Jack Ma. In fact, through our reporting, we found that often when he meets with other founders and decides to invest in their companies, that he says he sees similarities in the founders and Jack Ma. And he talks about his history with Alibaba and his role in giving the company some capital to be able to succeed. Of course, Jack Ma and the people at Alibaba did the heavy lifting in terms of building that business and kind of making it a success in the e-commerce space in China. But Son has been able to tap that experience also as he's made his own investments.
Yeah, I'm just looking at Rich Go, myself and as a producer, Greg, on this show. So Jack Ma comes in at number 20 on Rich Go. So there's huge wealth here, isn't there, in terms of the two individuals. What about the structural relationship between the two companies? Do you think that might shift at all when you get this stepping back of very powerful figures? What happens next in the structures?
Well, it is changing. The two companies were closely aligned for many, many years. For a long time, Masayoshi Son resisted selling any of the Alibaba stake. After they went public, he continued to hold on to it. Shareholders would press him to try to sell some of the stock. And even when he sort of reluctantly sold a first stake, he did so in a very complex transaction so that he could maintain some upside. Even in the recent round of asset sales, he didn't just sell the stock. He decided that he would he would do it through a complex series of swaps. So he's kind of reluctantly selling some of those assets. But the two companies are moving in separate directions. You are seeing SoftBank sell down some of its equity in Alibaba. Alibaba has a new CEO who doesn't have the same kind of ties to Masayoshi Son that Jack Ma did. Daniel Zhang is, going his own way, investing very heavily in China and some new areas of retail, but also expanding into Southeast Asia. So the two companies had this very, very tight alliance. It was very much a bond between the two men. And now as these two men are kind of going separate ways, especially Jack Ma pulling back from business activity, the two companies inevitably are going to have a different relationship.